Hey everyone, I'm Marina. Welcome back to my channel. For those of you who might be new, this is my monthly making podcast where I catch everyone up on what I've been working on, knitting, crocheting. I have some quilting today. I have some very random things, kind of all across the board. So if you like to craft, if you like to knit, crochet, or just get some inspiration, you're in the right place. I have a small knitting shop online. It's called Pineapple Yarn. It's my hand-dyed yarn company, and I carry other goodies for your home or for your crafting. And I love yarn and I love to craft. So if you enjoy that too, you're in the right place. So I know I promised all of you that I would try really hard to update you sooner than a month, but I failed. So I have a good reason. My daughter, I just didn't even think about it, but my daughter is going to school. She's going to college. So yeah, it was a big transition, a big learning curve to get all of her things ready and to take her and, you know, do all the things. If you are a parent and you are in that same situation, or if you remember going to school, you may relate to that. So I'm going to try really hard this month to not let an entire month go by without updating you again, because I have been knitting and crafting a ton. It's been very, very prolific in the knitting arena in my house. But today I'm drinking a really nice tea. This is one of my favorites. I wait until September 1st. It's decaf pumpkin spice from Stash. It's so good. All right, so the first item I can't wait to share with you is this finished object. This is the Ranunculus sweater. I'm sure you recognize it. It is such a popular pattern, and with good reason. Let me show you close up. It is just such a great sweater. And it knits up so fast, and it's so flattering, and you can use so many different yarns, and it's just a great pattern. So this is a pattern by Noro Haruito, and I hope I'm saying her name right, but I've knit this sweater before, and I don't even know if I shared it here. This was quite a while ago, but it was just a t-shirt kind of. So it was short sleeves. I actually didn't have sleeves at all. I just kind of capped them off at the end. And so anyway, I knew I wanted to knit it again. And I used a really pretty, let's see, I brought the yarn. I used one of my colorways, pineapple yarn, in Mello Grello. And so it's this really, just the color I'm obsessed with right now. It's like a lime green, but almost like a dirty green. So this is just, it's so nice for fall. And then I paired it with Ito Kinu, which is a really nice 100% silk yarn, and it is so interesting. So this base is my Lani sock base, which is a 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. And then this has the same yardage as my Lani sock base. So even though this is a 50-gram cone, they actually complement each other really, really well. So I held these two together. This is the colorway Caravan. And one of the reasons I really like this color is there's flecks. It's kind of a little bit of a tweed fleck. But I held these together, and this is the fabric that it created. And I don't know if you can tell how drapey this is. I followed the pattern almost exactly. I did the wider neckline, and I knit with the same size needles. So the body of the needle is a US 10 or 6mm. It's a really large needle. So you can I'm just showing you the drape of this sweater is so beautiful, and the color work turned out so pretty. But I am loving so much this Ito Kinu. And I'm really excited because I'm going to start stocking it in the shop because I love it so much. And I'll tell you why, specifically for this sweater, for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's 100% silk, so it's a really nice drapey fabric. It's thinner than a sock weight, so you can pair it with a fingering weight sock yarn, really you can pair it with anything you like, but I really wanted to pair these two together just to make a really lovely sweater that I could wear when it was still warm. It's so great if you run warm as well, like if you want the sweater look, but you don't want a thick sweater. It makes such a nice garment, and I'm so happy with it. I love the color. What I've been wearing underneath it is I have beautiful chocolate brown tank top, and I wear that underneath, and I have some chocolate brown linen pants that looks really, really great together. But you can also tell I have neon pink pants on, and it works great. I love the colors together. So those, I'm just really, really obsessed with this pairing right now. I think it's so nice. And yeah, so I'm trying to think. I wrote some notes down. I wrote notes today. I'm very proud of myself. So one thing I love about the Ranunculus sweater is that it doesn't use a lot of yarn, because if you are knitting a fingering weight or even fingering weight held double, the yardage goes a really long way on a large needle. So I used, in the Lani sock base, I used about 120 grams. So I had 2 skeins set aside for myself, and I was putting notes how many grams I have left, and I have 80 grams left of this skein. So it really didn't use a lot. Now, granted, this is the smallest size sweater, and I'm short, so I always crop everything, and I don't use a lot of yarn, but really the yardage goes a long way. And then in the Ito Kinu, I used about 66 grams. So I did have 2 cones of this. Each cone is 50 grams. So I still have 34 grams left of this. I can use this for another project, it's just great. So I really enjoyed this. Like I said, I used the called for needle size. It was really nice. I love the fabric. And yeah, so this was a very fast project. I didn't even work extra. I didn't knit extra, and it just flew off my needles. And I have been wearing it all the time. One thing I love about this pattern is the sleeve cuff, I guess. It's like an I-cord cuff. It's not ribbed, it's not really stretchy, but it just adds a really nice finished look. And then I also did the twisted rib on the neckline and the hem, which also adds just kind of a different look. And I think that the twisted rib takes just as long as the body. Honestly, it takes a really long time, but I think it's worth it. It's beautiful. It's just a beautiful light fabric. It has a really nice drape. And so while I was knitting this sweater, my daughter, who I just took to college, said, "Mom, will you knit me one?" So I said, "Of course I will." So I cast a second one on after I finished this, and I grabbed a skein of yarn to show you the yarn that I used. So this is pineapple yarn in the colorway Tropi-call, and I used a different base this time around because I wanted to experiment and see what kind of fabric it would create. And so I used the Nala sock base, which is an 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon. And this skein, the put up of this skein is a little different. It's 115 grams. So it is more than my Lani sock base and my other bases, but you get 426 yards. So the yardage it's a nice yardage per skein. And so this really is like a heavy fingering weight, or maybe a sport, light sport weight. You're kind of getting into the sport weight grouping, I guess, because this is thicker and because it's a 2-ply, I feel like it's really plump. It's just a really beautiful base. I love this base so much. And what I paired it with is I paired it again with the Ito Kinu. This is the colorway Peach. And unfortunately, you know, I had this in my stash and I paired it together because I had it and I wanted to kind of pick up these warmer colors in the colorway. Unfortunately, when I placed my wholesale order for the Kinu, this color was out of stock. So I have a similar one, but we'll talk about that later. So I did love this peach color because it just added this beautiful warmth to this colorway, and it really blended. You know, when you hold a tonal or any, really it doesn't have to be a tonal, but when you hold them together, it really creates a totally new color. And by holding a tonal with a variegated colorway, it really smoothed out a lot of the kind of, I don't want to say jarring, but I guess more severe or contrasting colors in this, and just really added a nice like sheer kind of smoothing effect, kind of like if you held a strand of mohair silk with a colorway like this, it would really kind of meld everything together and smooth it out. So I'll put some pictures here, and I did take a little video of the fabric. Again, I knit using a US 10 or 6mm, and because the Nala sock base is thicker, it ended up with a beautiful drapey fabric, but just not as lightweight as this first ranunculus that I knit. It ended up being a little more substantial fabric, which, I mean, it's just beautiful. Like the fabric ended up being so beautiful, and I really enjoyed in this project knitting and making my own fabric. So marling 2 yarns together, creating my own fabric, experimenting with needle sizes, and this will be the subject of a different video down the line, hopefully soon, but I have been knitting up some gauge swatches, experimenting with melding different colors together and marling them and holding some different yarns together, and it's just kind of brought new life to my knitting, and just the freedom to experiment and to create fabric and then maybe find a pattern that goes with this fabric and this new, you know, the gauge you have knit, the colors you've created with holding these strands of yarn together. Just, it's very exciting. And anyway, so I will talk about that in another video, specifically with the gauge swatches I've knit. But this ranunculus was just so beautiful. And I did knit the second size. She's taller than me, so I wanted to knit her something that was going to be comfortable, and because she's not as petite as me, she can wear a little bit more oversized sweaters and garments without it just completely swallowing her. Because if I wear really oversized, I look like a child playing dress up, let's be honest. So everything needs to be a little bit smaller on me. So one thing I did differently than this sweater is I actually knit, or I cast on the number of stitches that were in between this smaller neck and this wider neck, and then I just did the corresponding number of increases to get to the body size and after the ribbing. And I love the way it turned out. The neckline is just a little bit closer, which I liked because it was a little bit more substantial, a little bit heavier sweater, and it just turned out so beautiful. I really like it, and I think if I was going to knit another ranunculus, which I probably will, I think I will do that same technique, just because like right now you can see I have a tank top on underneath, and it really does show just with the way it fits my body and the way that my tank tops fit me. So I think that's probably what I'll do in the future, but all in all, I've had so much fun knitting the Ranunculus pattern, and it definitely won't be my last. It's just such a fun, easy pattern that you can experiment with all different kinds of yarns, and it just is very enjoyable to knit. My next pattern, or my next finished object, is nearly finished, and I think this is probably the last time I'll show it on here unless I'm actually wearing it. I've been knitting on this for a long time. This is the Spectra Cardigan, and it is a pattern that was in an issue of Noro, and let me see. So this was in issue number 22 of the Noro magazine. This is called Spectra number 14. And I finally finished it. I cannot even believe that it's finally finished because this took a long time to knit. This was, obviously it has this all over lace pattern. And then on the back, it's this beautiful cable. In addition, this is knit in pieces. So the fronts are two separate pieces, the back and then the sleeves, and then you seam it all, you block it, seam it all together, and then add the button band and the buttons. I have not added the buttons, but I'll show you them. I do have them, but I love the way this turned out. I made a few modifications to this sweater. So initially I had really wanted the sweater to be cropped, and I really like sweaters that hit like in between, maybe at my high hip. So not at my waist, but just if I'm wearing a high-waisted pair of pants, to just cover the waistband. It's the most flattering length on me, and that's just what I like. So this ended up being way longer than that. And I think because when I blocked it, this lace pattern just stretched out. So for that reason alone, I'm really glad that this was knit in pieces because it stabilized that stretch. Let's see if I can try it on with this sweater. It has cooled off quite a bit here. I live in coastal South Carolina, so we get just warm weather for many, many months, but it has really cooled off a lot. Usually it's still quite warm in September, and this is just the beginning of September. So no, I don't want to mess with my microphone too much, but this is what it looks like. So I have these 2 stitch markers here where the V's will match, and this is where I'll put the buttons. You see I already have the buttonholes all set. And one of the modifications I made was that I am going to put on 5 buttons instead of 4. And I just adjusted the spacing between the buttonholes to match that. But other than that, I didn't really do any modifications. This is a bottom-up cardigan, which if you've watched me for a while, I don't like bottom-up sweaters or cardigans because I find them more difficult and more fussy to adjust. I love being able to try on a sweater. But this, I just loved this so much. I love this yarn. This is a yarn by Noro. It's called Haruito. Haruito? Yeah, Haruito, and it's in the colorway Ono. And I used 3 cakes of it. It is a blend of cotton and silk. And so let me give you a close-up. I love Noro yarn because it looks hand spun and it has all these beautiful color transitions. So I did use all 3 of they're huge cakes of yarn, and I needed all 3 for the color management. So I did try to match the colors the best I could. I'll show you the back. In my opinion, I don't know if I would have put so much. I mean, the sides do look nice where the front and the back match and the colors are very similar. But I don't know if I would have put so much effort into matching the front and the back pieces. I just don't really know if it makes that much of a difference. I think it kind of looks nice with the sleeves. So the sleeves kind of match the front. I don't know, you're not looking at yourself in the back, so maybe it doesn't make that much of a difference. But I love the way it turned out. I mean, the feel is just beautiful. You can really feel that cotton, and it's not stiff like cotton though. It just has a really nice drape. And of course the repeat, I think it's an 8-row repeat. And so it's very easily memorizable. You can see where you're at in your knitting. And it was just a really nice, it was just a nice pattern to knit. I did go down 1 needle size from what was called for in the pattern. And like I said, I did try to knit it cropped and it did not work out. It was this is just so stretchy and so drapey that lace stitch just grew. But, oh, it's so pretty. So if this was a top-down pattern, I think I would have liked this brown closer to my face because it looks better on my skin tone. But, you know, I think that's just the thing with Noro is you can plan and plan all you want, and you just have to take what you get with Noro. And you have to embrace the imperfection and just really love the imperfection of the finished object. And yeah, I mean, that's the charm of it. That's the draw of it. No one uses Noro for it being an absolutely perfect yarn by any stretch, but it is just so special. And yeah, I really love this. I'll show you this color transition right here because it has this warm white going into this caramel brown, and then there's a little bit of orange right here going into the turquoise blue. This is so beautiful. If there was a yarn, a Noro yarn that was just these browns, I would buy it in a heartbeat. So pretty. And then I really love this transition too, this kind of beige going into this lavender and this blue. Oh, it's so pretty. But I think that also is the charm of the Noro, is because there's just so many different colors in one combination or in one cake of yarn. So you can really see the whole transition right here on the sleeve. It starts off with this kind of greeny yellow color, and then you can see the green repeat up here to the red. So I wanted a cardigan that I could wear that wouldn't be necessarily warm, but I could throw it on inside the house or even just outside. Make a really great beach cardigan when it got a little bit cooler because of the cotton. It's airy. Well, the cotton and the silk, really. It's very airy, and that would be really great if you were doing some beach walks or anywhere where you're by the water. This would be a really nice cardigan. So that is it. And then I was going to show you the buttons real quick. So I just got these from Amazon. I didn't have anything in my stash that would match. These are, I think, 1.25 inch buttons. They're just plastic, kind of the faux horn buttons. Does anyone use horn anymore? I don't think so. They're all plastic that look like this, but they're oversized. They fit the buttonholes great. And I want to lay it all out and stitch it well in the light. Usually I knit at night, so anything fussy like buttons, it really has to be done during the day, which I don't have a lot of knitting time during the day. So that will have to be done, and I'll have to set aside some intentional time to do that. But that is another project done. So I'm actively working on one knitting project right now, and I've been so focused on it because it's been so much fun. This is the King Salmon sweater, and I bought this, I think, when it came out last year, and I am enjoying it so much. This is the pattern's called King Salmon by Caitlin Hunter. It's a worsted weight pattern, and look how fun that is. Oh my goodness. This is unblocked, so you're going to see all kinds of imperfections, but I know that they will just melt away when I block it, which I think I kind of planned on doing that before I recorded, but it's just the way it is. So as you can tell, this is a top-down sweater, and it uses two colors. I'm using the base, I'm using my yarn, it's the original worsted base. So it is a 100% superwash merino in a worsted weight, and I'm using the color Mello Grello, so it's the same color in this sweater, and then the contrast color is Princess. So it's a really pretty hot pink, and I'm just really loving this pattern so much. Now, if you're familiar with Caitlin Hunter's patterns, you'll probably know that her top-down sweaters tend to have a very long yoke. And for someone like me who's already short, I wanted to shorten up this yoke just so it didn't swallow me up. And so I found someone on Ravelry. I will put the details down below, but basically I took their modifications and they eliminated probably about 6 rounds here in the colorwork section just to shorten up the yoke. And so that's what I did. I think it will shorten it maybe about by 1 inch or so. And so the yoke will still be probably oversized and longer than what I normally would use, but it's fine. It's going to be a great sweater. It's going to be so cute. And so I am knitting the smallest size. I'm using the called for needles in the pattern, which are a US 5 and 7. I think that's a 3.75 and 4.5 millimeter. And yeah, so I just got done with the color work. I started this maybe a week ago or so, and I'm losing stitches here. It's still on a short cable. So I wanted to end at the color work before I went any further, I'm going to steam block it. So I'll just steam it with an iron and make sure that all the color work looks okay. I am not a color work expert. I've done a lot of color patterns through the years, but you know, just tension it can be a little fussy. So I always just want to make sure that everything looks okay before I continue on, because that would be so sad to have a sweater that didn't look good. You know, the color work didn't look good. One thing I did do, because I found that the decreases or the increases were really tricky in between each fish motif. And so one thing that I did, instead of the increases that she called for, I just did a make one by looping. I think it's just a backward loop method. I think that's what it's called. But you're basically just taking your working yarn and adding a loop onto your right needle. Yes, you're adding a loop onto your right needle and then continuing to knit. And I found that that worked better than a left-leaning or right-leaning decrease or increase. It just worked better for me. So that might be something to consider if you knit this pattern. But other than that, there really isn't a whole lot to say, other than I'm just enjoying it so much. I love this color combination. It is so fun. I think it'll be so fun when it gets cooler, because it's definitely a very squishy, very thick sweater right now. But one of the reasons that I like knitting with superwash, I have several reasons, but because I live in a warmer climate, if I knit this with a non-superwash wool, I would probably, if I was able to wear it in this winter, it would have to be a very cold winter, and I would probably maybe have a month where I could wear it. And I do have some non-superwash sweaters that I absolutely love, but I can't wear them for very long during the winter. So hopefully by knitting this with the superwash yarn, I'll be able to enjoy it just a little bit longer during the cool weather. So that's my main knitting project, and I started another project because my daughter, who I took to school, who I took to college, she is going to school out of state, and she's going to school in the north, and it is a lot colder up there than it is down here. So she had mentioned, wow, it's really cold. And I thought, she is just going to be so cold if she already thinks it's cold. So she's worried about being cold, and she had said, maybe I should buy another blanket. And I said, don't buy a blanket. You're going to be okay. And I thought, I will sew her a quilt. And I know that she's such a sweet girl. She's very, she has such a big heart. She's very sentimental. So I know that this will mean a lot to her, more than just a quilt from this, you know, just a fleece blanket from a store or something. So I have a very small stash of quilting fabric, and it's all so beautiful. I have to restrain myself so much because fabric is just, there's so many beautiful fabrics, and specifically pre-cuts. I love pre-cuts. They're just so, so fun. And so I had found this pattern. I should say this, I'm a very beginning quilter. I have not been doing it long. I don't do it frequently. And so when I quilt, I don't like to reinvent the wheel. I just want a pattern that shows me what pre-cuts to use, and then we're good. Like, I know I could figure it out, and I'm sure maybe down the line when I'm a little bit better at it, and I have more experience, that will be very simple. Right now, I just want a pattern to tell me what to do. So I found a great pattern. It is called the Layer Cake Geese Quilt by Allison Ramsing. It's such a cute modern pattern, and she has so many cute patterns. I was so excited to find her because I definitely will make more of her patterns. They're so pretty. And I used 2 layer cakes, and they are called Food Group by Ruby Star Society. Here's all the squares that I cut from those layer cakes. So basically I had the 10-inch layer cake. I think it starts at 10-inch, but I needed to cut them down into fourths basically. So I could have, I think the 5-inch are called charm packs. So if I had 4 charm packs, that would have been enough. Or actually, let me think. Yeah, it would have been 4 charm packs. I just didn't want to buy anything new if I already had this fabric, and it's just so cute. So I had 2 of these layer cakes, and I took out all of the pinks, and look how cute these are, like hard-boiled eggs. This is so cute. That is adorable. I took out all of the pinks and the blues or pinks and yellows and used those. And then all of the dark greens and blues I set aside because they would make such a beautiful kind of like ocean themed quilt, like those kinds of colors. Look how cute this fabric is. Oh, it's so cute. I don't know if this will be my daughter's favorite fabric. She loves pink. So I know that she'll like the colors in it, but I am here for like the whimsical food shapes. I don't know. Look how cute this is. It's like bacon and fish bones. I just think it's so cute. I've got to show you one more that is just so fun. All the words of all the different foods. It's adorable. So what I did is I have mostly pinks and yellows that are going to be kind of like the colorful parts of the quilt. And this is all flying geese. So my contrast is also from Ruby Star Society, and it's from their line Starry. And it's just a neutral white, it's kind of a beige, and then the white pigment ink is all of these stars. And I thought this was really cute. I didn't realize when I got this, but there's like a chunky star and then this like fine star. I don't know if you can see that. This like tiny stars, so cute. So these, I would love to find a way to make flying geese without having to trim down any layer cakes or charm packs. That's like my goal. Can anyone do that? Because all of these need to be trimmed down, which is fine, but like a lazy flying geese pattern. And I've seen some that are, you sew them and you fold them, but I want like the traditional flying geese that you don't have to trim. I know, it's okay. I can trim them. It's just the way it is. But I did sew one group already of the flying geese, and they look like this. How cute is that? And then the pattern, in the pattern, what you do is you stack them all together. So 4 of these colors will all go together and they'll have all their points pointing the same way. So cute. I love this so much. So I've only done this much. I haven't gotten very far because I need to set aside some time to actually work on this. But I'm using, one thing I've used that I really like is this ruler called Wing Clipper. I don't know if you can see that. And there's a whole line of these rulers and tools that I have used. They're not cheap for sure. I mean, I feel like crafting tools are just, they tend to be expensive. But as I've done different designs and I don't know, different shapes, I have used these tools, this line of tools. I think they say, it says studio180design.net. And I really like it. It helps trim up the flying geese. And so it just ends up being like a really exact, you can see here, there's all these numbers and then you have all these arrows down on the bottom. I don't know if you can really see this. There we go. So you can see that there's points, and what you do is you line up the point of your flying geese underneath the ruler, and then you just are matching the measurement that you're aiming for, either on the top or the side here, and then you can just trim it, and you can trim it perfectly so that the V in the flying geese block is perfectly center. And I have found that it really makes a nice, it really adds to your quilt. It makes it look really nice. And for me, I do pretty well with sewing precisely, but it kind of takes a lot of the guesswork out for me. And especially as a beginner, it helps me so much. So I really like this tool called Wing Clipper, especially for flying geese. I love flying geese so much. And anyway, so that's the fabric. That's the new project. Hopefully I'll be able to make some progress on it this next month because I really want to give it to my daughter when she can use it, which she does live in a colder state now, so she will definitely use it, and I know she'll love it. So that is it for all of my projects. I've just been loving working on everything lately, and I haven't been doing any socks. I haven't added any rows to my crochet granny stripe, but they'll always be there so I can get back to them whenever I get burnt out with the sweaters. So right now I'm just loving everything I am knitting on and sewing on. So I hope that you are enjoying all of your crafting, all of your knitting and crocheting and sewing and whatever you're working on. And I hope that whatever I've shown you today has inspired you and brought you some excitement, I guess, to your knitting and crafting processes and journey. And if you like this episode, I'd love if you give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you're interested in this kind of content. I will be back, hopefully less than a month, hopefully maybe 2 weeks. And until then, I hope you enjoy your crafting and I hope you have an awesome day. Bye.